We're off and flying. Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? Thumbs up if we're good. We're good. I assume we're good if we're here, so that's wonderful. Um,
Mute. I gotta mute.
there you go. Shh, quiet, Elisa. No troublemakers. Um, yeah, it's great if everybody mutes for sound so everybody can hear well. Can everybody hear me well right now? We okay? All right, good. Um, I will definitely make a point to, take a break and you can unmute for questions. So I'll try to, put those into the class today. But if at any point you'd have a question and you just wave at me or raise your hand, like we're in class, and we'll stop and chit chat a little bit. So I kind of want to start off with a little bit of a recap from last week. Just a quick, what did we talk about last week? And then I also do want to ask you guys, your a little bit of feedback from last week. Like, did you take what we talked about, and did it change your week in any way? Have you been doing the brushing, on a regular basis? And any experiences with that at all that you'd like to share? I'd love to hear it. I know it hasn't been that long, but a lot can change in a week. So let me recap real quick, and you guys can think about that. We talked about how our brains and our bodies are integrated together. They are not separate items that we often talk about. We hear about the body and the mind, right? And we think of those as separate things, but they are very, very much married together. Cannot separate them. I gave some analogies on how I wanted you to start thinking about your bodies and how it's a little bit more like a car, like a modern age car that is filled with software. There's computer systems in it, and there's all these different sensors. Like there's the backup sensor, right? There's automatic braking sensors, right? There's the little light on your mirror that alerts you if somebody is in your you can't see them. What is that word called? Blind spot, thank you.
Peripheral. Oh.
Perfect, peripheral. So there's all these sensors, and I want you to start thinking of your body that way, how you are wired with a bunch of sensors. And these sensors alert the brain, and try to alert the brain as to what's maybe going on. And then ultimately your brain will make decisions based on the sensors. And it'll make decisions on what to do with the muscles, how the muscles should react. Should they react, by tightening up? Should they react by loosening up, relaxing, and all these different things? So we kind of talked about that big topic, and then we also talked about the stress bucket, where I took a bucket and we started filling the bucket with different things, like relationship stress, commuting to work or commuting, anywhere, an ankle sprain or an injury that you've had, financial stress. And we started filling this bucket up and talked about when it overflows and becomes too full, we oftentimes are more susceptible to pain, more susceptible to discomfort, more susceptible to mental health issues of, a variety of ways. All of those things are also affecting our immune systems, our hormonal systems. Everything in the body is ultimately comes back to that brain, and when the stress bucket is too full, that means your brain is going to have a really hard time controlling day to day. So those are two big things we talked about. And then we got into, all right, how do we provide some more stimulus to the brain in a way that is kind of like taking things out of the stress bucket? How do we create more space in there? And how do we improve these sensory receptors? And so we got into brushing, and we used a bath brush, and we brushed the skin in different areas, and we focused on wrists and hands. We focused on some other joints, the feet and the ankles, your spine. And we talked about doing a little bit of dry brushing on a daily basis, right? And then we also got into some joint movement that you guys were working on, all right? So that's a little bit of the recap from last week. I'm going to take one moment here. If anybody would like to chime in with some feedback, questions on last week, now is the time. Go for it. Anybody?
Yeah, I've been doing the dry brushing, and I tell you,
I even went out and bought myself a big blue toothbrush.
Nice. Nice.
And that really, really works. It feels so good. And yeah, I had never heard of it before, and it really works. It feels so good and does stimulate things. And when I walk a lot, and just doing my feet before I go on a walk just makes it so much nicer for whatever reason, you know. So I appreciate that a lot.
Fantastic. Chuck, I didn't even recognize you. You've been doing so much brushing. That's great. Anybody else want to comment? Nope. All right. Well, let's keep rocking and rolling. So that's fantastic news. That means neurologically your body is responding well to that, Chuck, and you're providing more information up to your brain. And the better your brain understands your body, the better it works. All right. So that's super, super good. And aside from that, you know, if whatever you're doing makes you feel better, then probably do that. You know, for the most part. So today,
I have a quick question.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah,
when
right?
you talk about brushing, are you just talking? Is there a particular place on your body, or is it everywhere? And I assume it's just kind of light, because I wasn't here last week. So
right.
Is it? Give me just a 30-second summary of where to do it.
Absolutely,
Yep.
Gail. Absolutely. It's good to have you here this week, Gail. So this is one of the brushes that I talked about last week. This brush I found at Home Depot. It was somewhere around $4 or $5, and the blue one is pretty soft bristled. All right, we can also use, it doesn't need to be real coarse or abrasive. We also talked about using like a paintbrush that's a little bit lighter and gentler. You can use a bath brush, something to brush your hair with, and sometimes it can be a little bit coarse, and that'll work great. It should feel good though, right? So if you're using something that's really abrasive and it kind of hurts or it's really sensitive, that's too much, right? So it can be very, very light. The other little recap, you can absolutely brush your entire body, and that could be beneficial. For time's sake, we're going to spend a little bit more attention around the joints, right? So around the wrist joint, and get all the hand, because there's so many little joints in your hand, around the elbow, around the shoulder, kind of work your way up or down the body. All along your spine, all right, working from the base of your skull all the way down, and these brushes are great with the long handle, right? There are, this piece of this is going to be really important for brushing, but also for, as we get into more movement, there are sensors, we call them nerve receptors, all over our body that send signals up to our brain, okay? If you imagine the muscle area, so the area in between your wrist and your elbow, let's just say there's about 100 receptors in that area. If you look at the number of receptors in the wrist joint or the elbow joint, compound that by about 100 to 1,000. So if there's 100 receptors in between the joints, there are anywhere from 1,000 to 100,000 in the joints themselves. The joints are way, way more receptive and have way more receptors or sensors than what's going on in between, right? And it kind of makes sense. Your brain really wants to have healthy joints because if you have a broken joint or a dysfunctional joint, you can't move, right? So in a way, it cares more about your joints than it does what's in between, right? So when you're doing your brushing, focus a little bit more on the joints. And that is also a big reason why we're going to be starting movement practice by moving joints and learning how to move your joints better. It's going to be less of a focus on just getting a muscle to pump up, like general strength training or working out. You're kind of focusing on muscles. We're going to focus a lot more attention on joints because they have a lot more brain power inside of them, all right? Hopefully that's useful. That's good stuff. That's like neurological gold right there. All right, so the topic today is we're going to be working on building quality movement. We probably all know somebody where you're like, you know, that Tim, he's just a natural gifted athlete. You know, it's like he was just born to play basketball, right? Or he was just born to play golf, you know, and you watch them, you see kids like this, you see adults like this that tend to just move really well, like they just have it, right? It was just given to them. What we've found, you know, over many, many years of studying movement and watching movement and learning and all this, is that yes, you are given some things like the size of your joints, the size of your bones, the size of your muscles, and things like that from your genetics. But a huge part of how you begin moving and end up moving your body is based on who you grew up around, who you watched move. You can walk around stores and such and watch families walk, and it's really common that the kids walk like the mom, right? Or the son walks just like the dad, right? You can kind of pick them out, those traits. Well, at a very, very young age, we're watching our parents or the people we spend a lot of time around, we're watching them move. And our brain is wired to mimic that. You know, those are mirror neurons. All right, so immediately we kind of think, how do I do that? Let me watch this person, and then let me try that. All right, so we develop that way based on the people we're around. All right, so it's incredibly common and normal, and makes sense that Tim's dad was a great golfer, and so is Tim. And once you know it, Tim's kids are great golfers too. You know, so it's the moral of the story here is that we need to, no matter what age we are, we need to continue building or creating good quality movement patterns. Because we can still learn them no matter what age we're at, and we will still learn them based on what we're practicing, who we're watching, who we're around, right? But it can be learned, and we need to learn it, right? Because we can also go the other way and actually learn poor quality movement. And you can choose whether you want to go down that path or not. So let's get into some quality movement. Elisa's like, no, she wants to keep run walking with her dog. So let's get into some movement stuff, and then we're gonna be finishing up with a little bit of eye exercises, right? Which we'll start on today. We'll see how much we get through, and then we'll continue that next week as well. So what I want to do to start off is, you guys can certainly participate at any level you'd like to. I'd love to have you join in, but you can just kick back and relax if you need to. We're going to start doing a couple movements with your feet. And this is going to require, I'd prefer that you're in a sock or barefoot. So if you're comfortable kicking kick your shoes off, go ahead and do that. A couple of these movements that we're going to do are extremely simple. Let me tip this down so you guys can see me a little bit better, see my feet a little better. So the first movement we're going to do is a very simple, what's called an ankle tilt. Black socks, black mat equals camouflage. There you go, how's that? You can see my feet better. All right, so our first movement is where I'm going to take a small step forward with my right foot. And I'm going to begin tilting my foot to the side, right? I'm doing a little tilt over. If you've ever sprained an ankle, your body might be going, careful, why would I want to do that? Right? So proceed with caution here. Make sure you're in control. But we purposely want to learn this motion. All right, so you're going to tilt over just as far as you're comfortable with. You should feel a little bit of a stretch or movement kind of down by your heel. It should be, there's a big bony bump on the outside of your ankle, and the joint area is just below that, all right? So that is the area we're going to try to get moving. If you have really stiff ankles here, if you've had injuries, it might not move very far. It might only be like a few millimeters movement. That's okay. All right, so let's try some on your right foot. Let's try some on your left foot. All right, but we're doing a tilt over. We want to try not to twist your leg and rotate your leg. It's just a tilt to the side, right? I have a fun little video that I did on this on this joint area, it's incredibly powerful because, a little foot model here. This is the joint we're trying to move right now. I won't go into details with all these joints, but some of these are really important and powerful. This little joint right here we're trying to move. It is a sensor for your hamstrings. When this joint does not move well, it sends a signal just like your backup sensors on your car, and it sends it to your hamstrings, and your hamstrings go, stop, tighten up. Okay? So your hamstrings will be tight, they will also be weakened and dysfunctional if this sensor is inoperable, right? Not working quite well. So we want to get that joint area moving really well, regain control of that joint. All right, the other thing with this movement is you want to practice having control of this motion so that in life, if one day you happen to roll your ankle that direction because you stepped on a branch or a rock or a curb, you can go, oh, I just did a really quick ankle tilt. Thanks for teaching me that, Lucas. All right, I didn't break my ankle this time. All right, guys. The next one we're going to work on is you either need, ideally, I'm going to use a towel. If you have a pillow, something a little bit soft to put your foot on, and I'm going to show you how to do this. I also have a soft, cushy blue pad that I'll use sometimes. Towel, blanket, pillow, something soft to put your foot on. Works really well because what you're going to do is you're going to flip your foot back, right, like so. Be aware that if you have really tight feet, the bottom of your foot might want to cramp. So try to relax and be very gentle as you set it down, right? But you're tipping your foot all the way back. You're kind of resting the top of your foot on the soft object, right? The biggest thing here is we want to relax the toes. We don't want to have the toes be stressed out, okay? We're going to kind of work, so this is the top of the foot, right? Looking at the top of the foot, and there's some joints right in here. We're going to kind of focus on this whole general area right now, but there are 3 sensors in this area that all relate to hip muscles, all right? One sensor is for your hip flexor. One sensor is for your gluteus medius, which is out here. The other sensor is for your psoas muscle, which is on the inside of your pelvis, all right, inside your thigh. They're all just like sensors, like your backup sensors on your vehicle, and if they're not moving well, as you're out walking around, those muscles are going to be turned off in a way. They might be tighter, they might be weak, all right? The other thing that I need to point out here is if you have really tight ankles or your foot's cramping, things you can use around the house, if you have steps, you can put your foot up on a stair step, again with something soft on the steps. You can roll a towel up and put it on the steps. Or sometimes I have these big squishy medicine balls here, and we'll use those. We'll put our feet up on there, and we'll try to get a little bit of movement there. So once you get in position, you're going to do a little dance. You're going to dip around a little bit. Okay, lightly dip. You don't have to do a squat. And you can kind of roll your ankle back and forth, roll your heel back and forth. And just kind of play around with your position there. But the whole purpose is to try to get movement in those joints in front of the ankle. Right? I see some good faces like, ooh, I don't know, cramp. Never moved this way. All right, you guys okay with that? You guys okay with those so far? All right, these are incredibly important. They're kind of, sometimes they require some precision to get these joint areas moving, but they're incredibly powerful. They will make you feel better in many different ways if you get them moving in the right way. All right? Now, we are going to, you don't have to have a seat, but you're welcome to. All right? We're going to move up. We're going to do a couple other movements with your ankle. So we're going to do a right foot ankle circle. Good. So when we do this ankle circle, if you're standing, hold on to something so you don't have to worry about balance right now. and you can really focus on a smooth circle. When we're doing the ankle circle, you want to try to relax your toes. And we want this movement to come literally around, kind of around those big bony bumps that stick out on the side of your ankle. You want to recognize if there's any parts of the circle that your ankle seems to skip over, right? If you have tight areas, you might notice that your ankle just kind of stays, your foot stays in one area, and it doesn't get all the way back and around. You might notice that there's jittery spots. There's spots where you lose control, or it's a little shaky, or your toes tighten up, right? Those are all signs that your brain doesn't have a good understanding of your ankle. Right? We want to really improve on that understanding, right? That map. We often use the term maps. All right, let's try a few on the left ankle. So smooth circle around, trying to relax the toes. Don't forget to breathe. Keep the rest of your body nice and relaxed. You might notice a hand trying to help out. Or, I say like weaponizing sometimes. You'll notice the hand is beginning to weaponize. I say, okay, relax hand. We're just doing the ankle. Right? Good. All right, guys, nice work. Okay, so we're going to keep moving through a few other joints here, and then I'll pause for questions in just a minute, all right? Last week, we worked on, we did a movement, we did wrist glides. This week, I'd like to try to do a very complex movement called hand figure eights. All right? Don't worry, we're all going to screw this up. I'm going to face this way. I'm going to use my right hand, all right, because I think this will be a good view for you guys. The index finger is going to lead the way, and I'm going to trace, I'm going to imagine I'm tracing an infinity sign, or like a sideways figure eight, right? And the motion looks like this. You notice how my index finger leads the way, and all the other fingers follow the train. They follow along. Right? We're trying to get movement on this back side of the hand and the wrist. This is a very critical area for healthy shoulders. Right? If you ever have a rotator cuff problem, oftentimes it lives here. So we're going to go, the index finger is going to go forward. It's going to point down. It's going to point towards you. It's going to rotate up to the ceiling, come way back down to the floor, and start back over. And we'll try to smooth that out the best you can. Did you guys get lost a little bit? I'll do a couple this way too. Sometimes, if you add a little speed, you can kind of see that I'm drawing a figure eight motion. And the index finger leads the way. Yeah, you guys are awesome. I think everybody got it. Can we try the left hand? All right, let's try the left hand. Index finger is leading the way. Good. I'll do a couple this way so you guys can see this direction. Well done. Now we're going to reverse that. Let's stay with this left hand, but reverse. So the pinky is going to lead the way. We're going to turn towards the pinky side. The pinky is going to come in. Turn to the pinky side. And we make this figure eight motion again with the pinky leading the way. I'll face this way for a couple. Okay, and don't freak out, guys. I'd say the average person, it takes them weeks to figure this one out. A lot of people really struggle with this. You'll notice that you might feel like, I'm losing control, I'm losing coordination, right? I can't figure it out. A lot of that, we're really stimulating your cerebellum part of your brain right now with this complex motion, right? So this is good for your brain. Let's go to the right hand, and let's try a couple of the pinky leads the way with that right hand. Sometimes it's helpful to, literally draw a figure eight on like a whiteboard, and you can try to trace it. I'll give you guys another way, if you're still struggling with this a little bit, is with the pinky leads the way. All right, let's try this one. So if you turn your palm towards you, right, and you go ahead and move your pinky first and bring it in and make a fist and tip your wrist back. Now turn pinky side, right? Now you're going to bring the pinky up first, let all the other ones follow, and bring the hand back. Now turn to the pinky side so the palm is facing upward. Pinky comes in, you make a fist, and you bend the wrist. Turn to the pinky side. Bring the pinky up and the hand back. Turn to the pinky side. Palms back up. So pinky leads, pinky turn. Pinky leads, pinky turn. Some people like that, I don't know. That one doesn't make sense to me, but. All right, shake it out, guys. We're doing good, we're doing good. So we're starting with some of these little tiny joints, right? And getting things moving. We can build on it. So let's move up here to the body. Based on time, I want to nice stuff. But I all right, so it's very attractive and fun to do on Zoom. Elisa, make sure you're recording this. All right, here we go. So you're going to open your mouth about halfway. And you're going to glide your jaw side to side. Okay, so here we go. Side, 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 side. Try to keep your face as relaxed as possible. So you're just moving your jaw joint. Notice if you lose control of it, if it happens to like slip to one side faster than the other side. All right, see if you can maintain control the whole way. Notice if it likes to push forward or pull back. All right, try to move it in a really good straight line. Nice. Now we're going to move forward and back. All right, so open your mouth about halfway and keep it at that distance and move forward and back. All right, just like your jaw is a hockey puck and you're sliding it on a table forward and back. This is a hard one because most people's jaws want to open and close when they do this action. So you want to try not to have it open and close. Maintain the same space between your teeth. And work on that gliding motion. This is a good one to do in a mirror. You can notice, if you're a lot of people, when you push forward, it goes to one side or the other. You want to try to maintain a nice straight line when you're starting with that jaw movement. Moving our jaw is incredibly important to our brain because we use our jaw for eating and talking and breathing, life things. So it's really important, and it's very protective of the body if the jaw is not moving well. Very much connected to a lot of your core muscles. Right, and the muscles around your spine, if this isn't moving well. All right, cool. So I'm going to pause right now and see if you guys have any questions on the joint movements that we covered, and then we'll move on to the next topic. So I'll just take a moment here. You guys have questions, concerns? Go for it. Oh my gosh, you guys are too easy. Come on, give me something hard. Give me something different.
I definitely felt like those hand movements, like I could feel it like working into my shoulders, which my shoulders tend to be tight. So that was interesting. And I had no clue that your jaw was that connected to your core. So those were both very, very interesting things to me.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, it's kind of nice to know the connections to some of these things. Improving quality movement in one area of the body, it can potentially affect anything because it's all connected, it's all one unit. But there's some of these really interesting, closer married connections like wrist and shoulder and ankles and hips and things. So that if you are, like Elisa, let's say you're out on your walk, jog, run, and your shoulder's feeling tight or a little painful. And if you know the wrist has a connection, you could stop and do a couple of these wrist movements, and it may help. It may get rid of the pain. It may start to improve the function of it, start moving a little bit better. If you have a hip pain, as you're walking around, as you're living life, you may go, Lucas said there's something about the joints in my feet and my ankle that relate to the hip. What if I go back and I work on those joint movements in that ankle, and then walk around and see if it takes the pain away or reduces it or improves the function, right? So it can be really, really useful to help what's the word? I don't know. Take care of yourself, you know? So a good thing. Any other questions? Guys all good? Whew, you're doing great. I think we only have, we got about 2 hours to go. Guys, you're doing awesome. Super good. I'm kidding. It's always my best joke. I'll get you guys out of here. I won't keep you around too long. But I want to get to some vision stuff. And let me say it this way. Let me just say your visual system, right? So your eyes, there are 6 muscles that attach to your eye and move your eyes around. There's also muscles on the inside of your eye that have big jobs, and they deal with lighting changes, and they deal with trying to fine-tune so you can see better, right? There's a lot going on there with your visual system, and your visual system is one of the biggest sensors that you have in your entire body. Right, so like your car, again, has those sensors, right, that senses things, and it's watching, right? Your visual system is just like that for your body. It is constantly deciding on what it should tell your brain. It's constantly telling your brain things, and then your brain will tell the muscles what those things are, what it should do, okay? So there's literally a direct anatomical route. Right? This isn't just something we decided and made up. It is literally in anatomy where you can trace your eyes to your spinal cord and all the muscles around your spine. Okay? So all of your posture muscles, all of those muscles are directly controlled by your visual system. So if you want to improve your spine, how it moves, and how it stays put as you're moving around the earth, working on your visual system is incredibly important. All right, so super, super cool in a lot of different ways. And I'll talk a little bit more as we go, right? So yes, you can improve visual clarity as well by working on eye exercises. If you want to one day work on getting out of the glasses, yes, you can do that. Absolutely possible. But we are going to focus a little bit more on starting to exercise our eyes for movement health, because we want our bodies to move a little better and start feeling better. All right? So I send you guys, I put a PDF in the chat. So if you guys are able to access that, you don't need it at this moment. I'll send it to you as well, just so you guys can get access to it. But it's a PDF, so if you guys can print these off at some point, I'd like you to have these vision charts to put up somewhere around your house so you can start practicing them. Right, but for today's purpose, right now, we're going to use these 2 letter charts. Right? And I realize you guys are on small screens, so these are going to be kind of close, but that's right. Once you guys have these charts printed off, you can put them on the wall a little bit wider, okay? And you can stand back about arm's distance, right? What you're going to do here is you're going to keep your head really straight, and you're going to look to the left, and you'll notice there's a letter N. So you're going to look at that N and say to yourself, N, and then you're going to look over to the other chart and look at the Q, and then say Q, and then M, D, K, E, I, F, L, G. You're going to continue reading down the charts. We're working on good quality eye movement back and forth without any head movement at all. All right? Now, I'd first like you to try this one with your glasses off. If you guys are wearing glasses, recognize it may be blurry, but for the time being, we're going to say blurry's okay. Yeah, can I get closer to that? So for the time being, blurry's okay. When you're doing eye exercises, you want to do as much as you can with your glasses off. And then you want to do some with your glasses on as well. All right? If you totally can't see it at all, you can put your glasses on. All right, guys, I'm going to time you. You got 30 seconds to go as far as you can. If you get to the bottom, start back at the top. All right? Ready, set, go. 30 seconds. Make sure you're saying the letter to yourself. You can whisper it to yourself. 10 seconds left. And relax, guys. Very well done. All right, so in about 30 seconds time, I know those were kind of close because we're on the computer here, but in 30 seconds time, you should have gotten through at least twice, right? But 3 times would be even better. So just as a little bit of a baseline, kind of know where you're at. I did notice maybe about half of the group had some head movement involved. All right, just so you know, even when you might think your head is perfectly still and there's little micro movements. So you want to work on 0 head movement, keep the rest of your body really relaxed when you're working on this one. All right? And that's how we do that eye exercise. You can start with about 30 seconds. You can work up to a minute at a time. All right? And that can be just a simple, I'm calling these daily eye exercises. All right, so once a day, 30 seconds. After you get a little practice with it, you can bump it up to a minute, once a day for a minute. All right? If doing that eye exercise makes you feel a little yucky, like a little woozy, maybe a little bit nauseous, something like that, you want to do a little bit less of it, you can do 15 seconds. You can bring those charts a little bit closer together, right, and try to make it a little bit of an easier task for your brain to do. All right, you guys ready for the next one? You bet we are. All right, so the next one, how are we doing on time? I think we're okay. Alicia, you'll give me like a cut it off if I'm going too long. All right, so the next chart here, this is going to be hand-eye coordination. This is not catching balls yet, but I'll put this chart right here. Can you guys see that okay? Kind of, sort of. Oh, you know what I was going to do for this one is I was actually going to share my screen, which I think I can do. There, that might be better. So let's try that. So for this chart, you're going to imagine the line is the midline of your body. All right, each line is the midline of your body. It's like your spine. If the star is to the right side of the line, I want you to tap your right thigh. Just give it a little tap. If the star is to the left, tap your left thigh. If the star is on the line or touching the line, clap. All right, so you're going to read the star, respond with body movement, right, left, or clap. I'm going to time you for 30 seconds. We're going to see how far you can get. If you make it to the end, restart at the top. All right? Ready, set, go. Ten seconds. And relax. Nice work, you guys. That was like Dance Dance Revolution going on with all you guys. That was super good, super good. All right, so we're going to go real quickly into the next one. The next one is going to be squares instead of stars. We're going to use squares for feet, all right, to represent your feet. So if the square is on the right side of the line, we need to move your right foot somehow. So that can either be just a tap with your right foot or an actual lift up, like a step. If the square is to the left, move your left foot, either a tap or a lift. If the square is on the line, do a jumping jack. No, I'm kidding. You're going to move both feet at the same time. So either both feet lift up, okay, or both heels lift up, like you're doing kind of a calf raise motion. All right, so we have square to the right, we have square to the left, and we have square on the line, which is moving both. All right, and again, we're going to go through about 30 seconds. Let me share my screen again.
Lucas, can we wear our glasses? Is this also for eye movement? Or should we leave our glasses off again?
Great question, Elise. Thank you. This is absolutely still working on eye movement, still working on eye muscle.
Okay.
Yep, still working on brain processing. But
And I don't know if everybody else had this problem, but you broke up when you said to what to do when it's on the line. I completely missed that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if the square is on the line, you're going to either lift both heels up off the ground or lift both toes, the front of your feet off the ground, right? Or if you really do want to, you can jump. But we need to move both sides of the body, both feet in some way, right? Yeah, so glasses, again, for this one, I will always encourage people to do as much with their eyes as they can with glasses off. But you really do need to be able to see these charts. So if you really are having trouble seeing them and where the placement is of the star or the square, go ahead and put your glasses on for these, for sure. Good stuff. All right, guys. I'm bringing that up here. And 30 seconds. Ready, set, go. Oh, we got a double. We'll go about 10 more seconds here. And good, relax, guys. All right, so I'm assuming what you're seeing on the screen right now is you're actually seeing two charts. Not sure why it popped up that way, but yes, okay, we got nods. The one chart on the side says coordination chart number 3. It's also in that PDF packet that I put in the chat. So once you get really good at doing just the stars with your hands and just the feet with the squares, you're now going to combine them. And we're going to really try to goof you up, right? So you have to do feet, hands, hands. All right, so you're doing your lefts and your rights, and you're also choosing feet or hands. So it becomes, a big, kind of obvious that it's a brain game, right? We're trying to really challenge your body with what it's seeing and how it's responding. All right, guys. So let me just move this out of the way. Okay,
So you said this.
Yeah.
The stars were the hands and the squares are the feet? Okay.
Correct.
I have a question.
Yeah, you bet.
When we're going through, you might have said this, but I missed it. Are we supposed to be going down or across each row as we look at it, or does it matter?
It's a great question, and technically it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. What you will recognize that most people, when I have them start off doing these, they will naturally go left to right because that's the way they were taught to read since they were a young kid. So they will just naturally do it that way, right? Unless you're doing Hebrew and you're reading the opposite way. So after some time, you may start to kind of memorize the chart, and it'll become easier. So then that's a good time to switch it up and say, all right, now let's move down vertically on the chart, or let's read it backwards. Let's take that chart and flip it over, and now we've got a new chart, right? So we want to keep challenging your brain in those different ways, right?
I have a question.
Yeah, Rose?
When you do the feet, are you supposed to be standing or sitting, or it doesn't matter?
Great question, and you can absolutely do both. I would encourage everybody to, at some point, be comfortable doing it standing.
Okay.
So generally, I have somebody do it seated if you're somebody who has a lot of balance issues, right? So if we have a safety concern, let's have you sit down. If you start doing the activity and you notice your body's tensing up, and you're like that, right? If you feel like your body's tensing up, then we're going to also say, you know what? Let's sit down. Let's try to relax our body a little bit more, and let's do the movement more efficiently. So if you notice that tension building up, try to relax if you can, If that still doesn't work, then sit down. Good stuff. All right, awesome. All right, so I would like to, if you guys, Elisa, do we have like 2 more minutes? Can I do one more? Yeah? Oh, she gave me the
Yeah.
thumbs up. Awesome.
Yeah. You do
Okay, so-
whatever you want to do.
Whoa! All right.
Well, I should actually clarify. We don't want him to sing, right? Or maybe he has a good voice. Maybe he should sing for us.
Let me mute my mic and I'll sing for you guys. That's my best singing voice right there. No, I'm actually a percussionist. So, because I can't sing, I just make noise on the drums. And let somebody else sing. What I'd like to do one more exercise, and this one's going to require a pen or a pencil. You guys grab a pen or a pencil. Awesome. That didn't take as long as running to the bathroom for a brush last week. All right, so this is another eye exercise that is incredibly powerful and incredibly important for many different neurological reasons. All right. What we're going to do with this pen is we're going to do something called pen push-ups, right? And again, I'll encourage you to do it with your glasses off, but if you're really having trouble seeing the pen, go ahead and put your glasses on, all right? What we're going to do is you're going to hold that pen out in front of you, and I'd like you to stare at the very, very tip of the pen. So go ahead and actually pop that pen out. So we've got, the very tip of the pen. All right, now, hopefully at this point we only see one pen, okay? If you see 2, that means your eyes, both eyes, aren't quite lined up together. All right, they're not pointing in the same direction. Now what I want you to do is I want you to slowly bring that pen in towards your nose, right between your eyes, and I want you to stop if the pen splits to 2. At that point, slowly take it back away and back out and try to make it 1 again. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat that 2 or 3 times, your choice. All right, so you're going to see how close to your nose you can get. If it splits to 2, or if you run into your nose, go ahead and go back out. And that's a push-up, and we'll do 2 or 3 repetitions. Make sure you're breathing. And your body's nice and relaxed. Good. And go ahead and relax. Well done. Rose, I love that. Like, ooh. Shake it out. Has anybody ever told you should never cross your eyes? Do people actually say that? Is that a thing? All right. So for many, many neurological reasons, working the muscles, there's a couple different muscles on the inside of your eyes that pull your eyes inward. It's really important the health of those muscles is incredibly important for different reasons. So the goal with this one is to be able to bring that pen all the way to your nose, only see one tip of the pen. That means your eyes are both converging really well together. We're also working on the strength of those muscles, all right? You don't have to do a lot of repetitions with these. 2 to 3, like really 2 or 3 repetitions a day is a good starting spot. Now let me share a couple things that I observed and a couple common errors, right? Notice if I do this, if I had somebody watching me, and I do it that way, which eye do you think is having a hard time converging? Elisa? I noticed you did this a little bit. So if you bring that pen in, this happens all the time. People will go like this, and they'll say, yeah, it's right between my nose. It's right between my eyes. It's lined up perfectly with my nose. I'll say, no, it's not. I'll take a picture of them. And they'll say, oh my gosh, there's the front of my nose. So if one eye isn't working real well, you will naturally draw that pen right to it. You won't come in the middle, okay? So you want to make sure that you're coming in the middle, and you're making the eyes converge or cross, as people say. All right? The other mistake, common error, is instead of bringing the pen in between the eyes, you'll bring the tip of the pen down to the tip of your nose. Because your eyes are more comfortable looking downward, like at a phone. You've practiced that motion a lot, a phone or a book, right, or a computer. So for right now, we actually want to bring the tip of that pen right between the eyes, so the eyes are coming inward, right, and not downward, right? Those are two different motions. And yeah, these are definitely intense. Blink a little bit, give yourself a little time to recover and relax. If it makes you feel yucky in any way, you'll know what I mean by that, if it did. If it makes you feel a little yucky, maybe only do one repetition. Make sure you're seated when you do it, right? And don't overdo it, okay? Well done, you guys. All right, so we got a little introduction to some eye exercises. We did a little bit of working on some quality joint movement, and we focused our attention a little bit more on some of these smaller joints that are really important to your health and your overall movement. So we're going to wrap up, guys, and I'm definitely available for if you guys have some questions right now. I'll just open up the floor. Questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question, but it's not related to anything that we've done today. It's a question about if we're going to be addressing something in the future.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask away.
I have problems with my feet. I've got really bad arthritis, and I've got neuropathy, but it's the painful kind, not the kind that's numb. And when I stand up, my feet, especially my right foot,